What is the one thing that all property investors will tell you after they've been investing a few years? Well, today on MPP's Building Blocks, we're going to explore it and let you into the secret. Okay, so starting your property investment journey can be scary. So let's put some sort of context on this statement. It can be a scary time. You've got to deal with starting a business these days because it doesn't particularly work sort of investing in your own name. So you've got to deal with registering and putting a business together. You've got to deal with finding the right property. You've got to deal with solicitors. You know, make sure you've got the right team around you. It's a difficult and potentially scary time if you're not used to doing it. Maybe you haven't moved house a load of times, or maybe you're not in business and you're used to sort of pulling teams and working in legal work. So it's understandable maybe that everybody does start slowly. So what is that one thing that I'm talking about? Well, many years later, say 2-3 years, you know, at the earliest later, the one thing that all property investors have said to me, and I'm sure say to everybody, is, oh, I wish I'd bought more property back at the start. Now, when is back at the start? Well, it kind of doesn't matter. And now we're going to explain to you why. Okay, so how can everybody, every single property investor, be of that same mindset that I wish I'd bought more back at the start, when the start is clearly at different times in history, different times for every single one of us, right? Well, to explore that a little bit, let's just pop back up the 18-year property cycle that we've previously done a YouTube on. So if we look at that 18-year property cycle, you can be fooled into thinking it really matters when you purchase a property, because, you know, if you purchased early in the growth phase, then of course you'd be getting all this wonderful capital appreciation. You might be fooled into thinking that if you bought right at the peak of this cycle, that wasn't a good time to buy, because obviously after the peak comes the slump, and you might think, oh, we're losing money, we're losing equity, we never should have bought that. But if we just slide the next 18-year property cycle right in next to the other one, then we start to see the reality of this situation, the reality of UK property. Again, I'm bored of saying it, small island, massively growing population. We do not build enough houses. There is a huge shortage. There is thousands and thousands and thousands of people on a list waiting for a home in the UK, which is why we're pretty passionate about social housing. But anyway, regardless of where you purchase your property, if you're buying property to hold long term, let's assume long term is sort of 20 years, it doesn't really matter when you purchase on this cycle. If you hold the property long term, 20 years plus, you're getting the cash flow all the time, but you're gonna get the wave of capital appreciation along the way. Doesn't really matter if you win short term the first 2 years, or we got great growth, or you lose a little bit in the first couple of years, because you're holding this long term. Hindsight, as we know, is a wonderful thing, and by the way, I'm no exception to the rule. Property was so cheap 7 years ago when I started. It's the same for everybody. Hindsight, as I say, is a wonderful thing, but this is exactly why we put this video together for you, to try and get you guys to learn from other people's mistakes, if you will. Learn that knowledge, use other people's mistakes and hindsight to balance your own perspective. If you're just getting started, there'll never be a better time. Listen, just a quick snippet into the sort of mind of a property investor. We're obviously wanting to educate you with the building blocks, but we also want to challenge your perception and your perspective. If we've added some value today, please hit the subscribe button, like this, share it, and we'll see you soon.